What's up, everybody? This is the second episode of the Bolts Breakdown podcast. I'm Boomer.
I'm Tommy.
And we are excited to be here. Bolts Breakdown exists in two formats for you. There is a blog that is released every single Monday. It goes straight to your email inbox, and it is more formal. It has all the stats, the highlights, things like that. And now, Bolts Breakdown exists in this podcast format where Tommy and I just kind of engage with Bolts Nation about the Lightning. We talk about all things Tampa Bay Lightning, and we're excited to do it. Today, we're going to talk about the games. We're going to talk about playoffs. We're going to talk about injuries. But before we get to any of that, Tommy, you have the Hagel Bagel hat on.
I do.
Tell us your thoughts. Do you like the hat or not really?
So I know your thoughts, but I have some thoughts. It's a little plasticky. For those who are on audio, they won't see
they're
the
missing
bagel
out.
bucket hat. But no, I mean, I think it's always fun to get some, even if it's kind of gimmicky thing from the games. It like adds to the fan experience. So I know you guys probably showed up at 5:30 and
Yeah, my wife and I went to the game. So for those that don't know, Tommy has on the Hagel's Bagels hat. They were given out at the arena, Benchmark International Arena, it was when the Predators came into town. So I think it was the end of February.
Sunday or something. I don't remember.
Or sorry, end of March. But we got there. My wife and I aren't crazy about them, but it is great for a podcast. Not so much great for the sun, but it works.
Yeah, it doesn't have much protection, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So before we dive into the games, let me just kind of back us up and talk about where we're at. So we recorded last Wednesday.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do going forward, just a little housekeeping. We'll record Wednesday. They'll be released Thursday mornings. But we played 4 games this week, and we went 2-0. So we won 2, we lost 2, and we're going to dive into each of the games. So, Tommy, why don't you start us with the Penguins game? That was last Thursday. Was there anything that stood out to you about that game, anything you want to talk about? We won 6-3.
Yeah. Well, we won. So that's big. I feel like at this point in the season, points are essential. We need points.
Yes, we do.
Now that we're tied at the top of the standings, every point matters, whether it's an overtime loss or a win, ideally a win. For that game, my first and biggest note for it was that earlier in the season, Gage Gonsalves and Cooper both mentioned the same phrase of playing defense on our toes. And I felt like the Penguins game was a great example of that. I mean, I felt like the Cirelli goal, he scored shorthanded at the beginning of the second period.
Yep.
Right?
We were down 2-1 at the time. So
yeah, huge goal.
Huge.
And that was a great example of playing defense, especially penalty kill on our toes. And so I thought that his play in the game was incredible. Brandon Hagel was out, of course, and I felt like Cirelli was playing for his buddy.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. He got a hat trick. I mean, it was an incredible night for him.
Yeah, It was great. Yanni Gord told Eric Erlinson, who writes on lightninginsider.com, he said it was the best game of the homestand. So obviously we had the 7-game homestand. This is game 6. And he called it the best game. And I don't disagree with Yanni Gord. Obviously the start, we played well, but we were down 2-1 going in the second period, and they were on the power play. So it had potential to be, again, one of those games where we just suck.
Yeah.
But we turned it around with Anthony Cirelli's hat trick, which was awesome. One thing I wanted to point out with that game, the Hounds, Zemgus Girgensons, Yanni Gord, and Pontus Holmberg, they played 9 minutes 54 seconds, mostly against the Sidney Crosby line, and they had 67% of the shot attempts, and they had 80% of the expected goals. So they're playing against Sidney Crosby's line. Wow. And these three, the trio of the Hounds, are just taking it to Sidney Crosby. And that was a huge part of the game, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in that point, defense, when we play good defense, right, he didn't say on your toes comment, he wasn't saying we're playing offense on our toes. Of course, you play offense on your toes, you're going towards the net. Right. But when you're playing defense like that, I have a note, Hounds line goal. That was one of my notes for this week and for that game.
Crucial.
Was when they score a goal, that means that we are pressing really hard because they're almost always playing against the top line.
Right.
So
it's the matchup line for Cooper.
For sure. Yeah.
And we'll get into more of it later. But
disappointment of Holmberg. And
let's talk about the Bruins game. So just these quick highlights, and then we'll kind of talk about trends. But did you notice anything from the Bruins game? That was the final game on the homestand. We won 3-1. So what stood out to you about that game?
I feel like this game was a good culmination of our offensive defensemen going off,
Sure.
right? I mean, you had goals by Dastu and Radish,
Chucky.
right? Chucky and Radish.
Yep.
And I felt like it was a good showing of that because those guys have been, in addition to Moser and really, I mean, Radish is the standout, but
Sure.
he had the record-breaking goal during that game, right?
21st goal.
21st goal by a defense.
So let me share some stats with you
Okay.
about that.
That I
So,
don't know.
Well, there's 54 defensemen in NHL history, so
Okay.
like 1917, whenever
Okay.
the NHL started, that have scored 21 goals in a single season. 54. Darren Radish is one of them. There's only 10 that were originally undrafted, like Radish. Radish
Okay.
wasn't drafted.
Yeah.
So Radish is one of 10 names in NHL history, not just like salary cap era or something recent, like NHL history. Going back like the whole century, Radish is one of 10 names to do that.
Wow.
And he was scratched to start the season.
Yeah. I remember somebody saying on a podcast or something like that earlier this week that he went from that scratch. I think it was Gabby Shirley or something like that said
Probably.
he was scratched to scoring all of these goals. And like what happened, right? Everybody is kind of debating whether or not this is a fluke year or if he's actually legit. Well, I want to hear your opinion. Your Bulls breakdown. You have all the stats. You know all the
Well, I don't
background.
know. So one thing that's interesting is of those 10 undrafted defensemen that have scored 21 goals, only 3 have done it twice. So, I mean, is this fluke? I don't know. I appreciate Julian Breezebraw's hesitancy with like dishing out $10 million for Radish because you never know. And I don't know. I'm not ready to stake my claim on if Darren Radish is legit or not. It certainly seems like it.
Maybe.
It seems like every shot he takes is over 90 miles per hour.
Everybody's saying pay the man.
And he's got good aim, so it's like,
true.
Why don't we pay him?
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, there's got to be a stat. I don't know if you have it pulled up or not, but the stat about how many 90-plus mile-an-hour shots he's made, and I
Sure.
think it's over double.
It is.
Not,
It's close. So last time I looked, and it was a few days ago, he was at 88 90-plus mile-per-hour shots. And the next closest is Evan Bouchard of Edmonton with 48.
Yeah.
So he has 40 more shots over 90 miles per hour than another great defenseman in the league.
And Bouchard is literally known for the Bouch bomb.
Yes.
Like, that's the name of his shot, is the Bouch bomb. And we're like, bald eagle. Like, I mean.
The bald eagle, I mean, he's awesome. I do want to, one thing before we move on from this game. I don't know if you noticed this. But, so, after Darren Radish, bald eagle, took a penalty about 10 minutes into the game, the Bruins went on the power play, and we had a shorthanded chance. Yanni Gourde came down. It was saved, whatever. They dropped the puck on the faceoff, and the clock doesn't move.
Oh, I heard about this.
Did you hear about this?
I heard about this.
So there's 37 seconds of power play time for the Bruins where the clock is stuck. It's stuck at, what was it? It was 9 minutes and 28 seconds left.
I remember. So I watched this game from home. It was this Easter Sunday? No, this is Saturday.
This is Saturday.
Saturday before Easter, right?
Yep.
So I was watching the game with my buddy and his wife, and we didn't have like the sound turned on because we were like hanging out with family.
I didn't either.
Yeah, so watching the game and sound's not on, so I'm not really like listening. Of course, the sound was at like 1 or 2 or something, and I just remember being like, "This is a really long power play." I don't remember the thing about the clock stoppage. I only found out I think after the game that happened, and I was like, "Has this ever happened before?"
Well, John Cooper was asked about it afterwards. So let me just, for anyone who doesn't know,
Yeah.
it stopped at 9:28. That was the shorthanded chance from Gourde. That was saved. The puck dropped, and then 37 seconds went on, and before they caught it. At that point, there was 4 seconds left on the power play. The Bruins were moving up the ice, and they blew the whistle dead. So everyone was like, why is the whistle dead? And they talked about it for, I don't know, it seemed like 5 hours. The referees conferred, like, what do we do? And eventually they started the game, no more power play, so 6 minutes and 58 seconds remaining. So they basically took off 1 minute and 18 seconds. But, I mean, to my count, there's 37 seconds missed from that ensuing faceoff after the Gourde chance.
Help me with the math here, Boomer.
We don't know. So anyways, back to John Cooper. He was asked about it, and he kind of said the same. He just shrugged. He's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And to his point, he was like, the right team won in the end.
Yeah.
And that's really all that matters. But, I mean, I've never seen anything like that. I
No,
thought that was
neither
pretty
have I.
funny.
I mean, it kind of makes me think of actually the Senators game, and I'm skipping ahead, so we'll get there in a minute. But about the penalty kill and the penalties in that game, so we'll get there. But we got somewhere to go first.
Let's talk about the Sabres game.
Okay.
Obviously, you said we in the beginning. We played great, and then we started to suck.
Yep.
This is where the suck starts to happen.
This is where the suck starts
So we
to
lost
happen.
2-4. Did you have any thing to talk about with the Sabres game?
I mean, first and biggest is Pontus Holmberg getting injured,
yeah,
right?
That's the story.
I know John Cooper was upset about the boards and the door being open for the penalty box or whatever it was. Based on how, I mean, I watched the video like 8 or 9 times, right? So every time I watched it, it was just awkward. Like, yes, he got hit, but he sort of fell and awkwardly fell into the boards. And I don't know, he's got a nasty injury now and he was upset about it. But I thought that was definitely frustrating because we're heading into the playoffs and Holmberg is a playoff kind of guy.
Right.
Like
we just talked about the Hounds.
Exactly.
Holmberg is a crucial part of the Hounds.
100%.
How they shut down Sidney Crosby. They did it to Nathan McKinnon earlier in the year.
Yep.
And now, obviously, fluke play.
Well, it's the playoff style games, like I mentioned at the beginning of today, were the Sabres game and the Senators game.
Sure,
and
those
we lost,
were 2 playoffs.
and we lost both.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know. What does that tell you?
Well, Holmberg got injured in one, and he didn't play in the other one. So maybe Holmberg's the key. I mean, I'm not ready to go that far. Let's talk about that injury for a second longer. Mm-hmm. Dave Mishkin on Power Lunch, another great podcast, he asked Pat Maroon, who's spent lots of time in the penalty box, about this injury, and he's like, "Is it a fluke? Like, should the penalty box attendant not have unlatched the door?" Like, and Maroon basically told Mishkin 2 things. He said, 1, the latch should never ever be undone until the power play's done. Right? Mm-hmm. It's not you take a couple seconds before to get ready. It should never be undone. And he said the second point is especially if play is coming towards the penalty box. Like, if that happens, you're not opening the door. Even if time's expired, you see sometimes it's a little delayed because you can't open that door if play's coming towards the penalty box. That's just dangerous. It's not safe. And that's
that makes
what
sense.
Patrick Maroon told Michigan. And so, obviously, where John Cooper made the comments about, he's like, I don't know if the penalty box attendant, whoever's over there, should have a job. That's what he said. And it was harsh, and I'm not sure I want to go there. But to his point, that latch should never have been open. If that latch isn't open, maybe Holmberg just rolls along the boards. Obviously, it was dangerous. He was going fast. Yeah. He probably would have been injured anyways.
The penalty was expiring, though.
It was.
The penalty was expiring. It literally expired like 2 seconds later.
Yeah, I think the exact total is 4 seconds. But
yeah,
it was expiring for sure.
The guy comes out of the penalty box over Holmberg.
Right, but to Maroon's point, you can't unlatch that door. And
I hear that.
My frustration is obviously Holmberg's a crucial part. That stinks. But if it was anybody, if it was a Buffalo player, I would understand the frustration. I probably wouldn't feel it as much. But I would understand the frustration. Well, is that injury is 90 times worse because the door's open. You fair. Watch it, and Holmberg's entire momentum is stopped because he's on a corner instead of a wall.
But more importantly, how does this affect us going into the playoffs? First of all, I think we got to go backwards to forwards from last week and talk about the standings.
Sure.
Right.
Last week you predicted what? Tell everyone what you predicted.
So I don't know what I was going for with my prediction, right? And nobody's in yet, right? But when I was looking at the trends, I was looking at the last 10 games for many of these teams, right? Montreal is on, like I mentioned last week, a heater.
Right. They had won 8 in a row at one point. Yep.
And the Flyers, I think, were 7-3 through 10, and then they maintained that 7-3 through 10 almost the entire week. And so I don't know if we have the standings that you're going to pull up here for people who are watching.
On the left side of the screen is last week's. So that was April 1st. That's where things stood, and on the right side of your screen is where it's at today.
And so I don't know if I'm just like a magician or a fortune teller or what, but man, the Flyers are on fire, and now they're in that second wild card spot.
Yep.
And I honestly wouldn't be surprised, depending on how the Bruins do this week, if they move up to that first wild card spot.
So to your point, so last week you predicted.
Well, they're in the Metro. Sorry, I didn't mean the wild card.
No, you're good. So last week you predicted the Canadians would finish top of the Atlantic. That'd be Bruins and Lightning first round matchup. And then you said the Senators.
I said it would be Buffalo and Lightning.
Sorry, that's
first
what I
round
meant.
matchup.
Buffalo.
Yep.
Same thing. So as we see, the Flyers were 3 spots out. It was the wild card 2 position. Then it was the Senators, the Red Wings, and the Flyers. You said they'd come all the way back to get into a wild card spot.
Yeah.
And you said the Canadians would be on top of the Atlantic Division.
Yep.
Now, as we see today, the Canadians are tied. Obviously, we hold the tiebreaker, but the Canadians are right there for the lead in the Atlantic. And the Flyers, They did even better than you thought. They're in the 3rd position in the Metro.
Yeah.
They're not even in a wild card position. They've kicked the Islanders. Obviously, the Islanders are now almost eliminated.
Yeah.
And the Flyers are all the way up.
Didn't
so
they
you look
fire
like
their
a
coach?
musician. They did. There's all these firings happening.
It's crazy.
It
I
is
do.
crazy.
I think you texted me in the middle of the week, like some article about the Flyers.
I was just surprised. When you said that last week, I was like, there's no way, one, that the Canadians finish atop the Atlantic. Like, that's not happening.
Yeah.
And the Flyers are not going to be able to elevate themselves above 3 different teams to get into a wild card spot.
Yeah.
And not only did they do that, they're in 3rd in their division. And they
Yeah.
have a chance to get 2nd. I
Yeah.
mean, they could overtake the Penguins. Probably not. But
Probably not. But no, I mean, I was looking at the trends of what was going on and where were people headed. And I think the Lightning and the Sabres for that game, like it was a playoff style game and they were beating each other up. And the game tomorrow against Montreal is going to be a real test of where we are. And so, my hope, of course, is that we win, obviously.
Sure.
But my wife is funny because she was saying how and I would say my wife, but Sarah, my wife. Yeah. So Sarah was saying how crazy it would be, or for me to, predict that, like, oh, the Lightning are going to be in 2nd, or that Montreal's going to be in 1st.
How dare you predict
How dare
the Lightning
you
aren't in 1st?
Predict this. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm more realistic. I know that you're more the idealist, and so
I'm more of like have blind faith in the team no matter what.
I know.
So of course we're gonna finish 1st in the division.
Of course we are. But I mean, another thing I wrote about the playoffs coming up is that yes, the standings are what they are, but this past week and this next week are really playoff previews because not only in the sense of like we're getting ready and we're about to enter playoffs, but also these teams could be opponents at any point in the Eastern Conference, right?
Right.
And so it's definitely playoff preview week. We played the Bruins this week. We play the Canadians. We're playing the Red Wings, which are pretty much out at this point, unfortunately, but for them. But it's just previews about where we are. I mean, what do you think? What are your thoughts on the playoffs and where we stand and where we're going?
I think playoffs. I mean, so let's talk back about our predictions. I said last week that the Lightning would be atop of the Atlantic Division.
Yeah.
And I said we were going to face the Boston Bruins.
Yep. Which is still the case, right?
We would if we finished 1st, but I said the Columbus Blue Jackets would be that wild card too. They still have a chance. I mean, obviously there's still a long way to go. Are you sticking with your
I'm
prediction?
sticking with my predictions. Listen, I'm not going to back down from them. I mean, they were what they were. If they're wrong, they're wrong, but I'm predicting it. Like Flyers are still in, right? I still think we play Buffalo. I think Montreal stays hot. Even if we beat them, I think that they stay hot.
So you're saying, okay, wait. You're saying if we beat them tomorrow on Thursday, that they're still going to win the division?
That's my prediction.
All right. I mean, I like you rolling with it. So we all 3 of those teams, the Sabres, the Canadians, the Lightning, have 4 games left.
Yeah.
We don't play the Sabres again, and the Sabres don't play the Canadians. So the only head-to-head matchup within those 3 is Montreal and Tampa tomorrow.
Yeah. 4-point swing.
Right. And Montreal and the Sabres both have back-to-backs. We don't. So just things to keep in mind. I still feel good that the Lightning are going to come out on top. It's all going to come down to tomorrow's game.
Yeah.
I think if we lose that game, I don't see us winning the division, but I don't think we're going to lose tomorrow. I think we're going to win tomorrow. I think we're going to secure 1st place in the Atlantic. But
I mean, I want to bring it back to John Cooper, right? Coop has led this team for 13 years or something like
13
that.
seasons.
And I tend to agree with what he has to say about the team because he's been pretty good about it.
Sure.
And this past week, he was asked about the placement of, how are you guys feeling? You want to be 1st? You want to win the division? What does that mean? And he did his signature. I don't know, or like it doesn't really. And his whole thing was that he doesn't really care, right? It doesn't really matter. And I actually tend to agree with that. I mean, the reason I predict, and I still feel comfortable predicting us with a 1st round, 2nd round Stanley Cup, win or whatever, is because those things don't matter. He mentioned that in 2021, it was great to have home ice advantage against the Islanders in Game 7. But that
you know who scored that goal?
Was it Braden Point?
No, it was back to
Cirelli.
Anthony
it was Cirelli.
Cirelli.
But anyways, he said that, and I was like, it doesn't, because we've been amazing. 2019 we can't forget, right? But we also can't forget 2020 and 21,
right?
And we were playing in the bubble. We were doing that weird playoff format. Like, we're able to adapt to whatever. And so I think that for our team, it doesn't matter really, where we stand. I think what matters is, as John Cooper has said, and I'll reiterate what he says because I love what he says, process over outcome.
Sure.
And if we can get the process going, maybe we'll have a switch flipped over here in the next week or so to get to a place where we feel comfortable. But that brings me to, where are we? Where is our team? What's our roster going to look like?
Well, the story of this whole season really has just been overcoming hurdles, right?
Yeah.
Like injury after injury after injury.
Yeah.
And we lost Pontus Holmberg here.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Cirelli's missing games. Hagel's missing games. And I think that's what's going to happen in playoffs too, is there's just going to be hurdles that we have to overcome. Yeah. And maybe it is injuries. Maybe it's we go down 3-1 in a series and we got to overcome that hurdle. I don't know what it is, but the reason I'm confident in this team, some hurdle at playoffs, it's going to be adversity. The reason I'm confident is because we've proven that we can win. Like, it doesn't matter the hurdle. It doesn't matter if we don't have depth, because Julian Breesbaugh is going to bring in Dominic James and Charles-Edouard Destoux. Like, who are these people?
Well, okay, I wanted to ask you, and slowing down the injuries part, because I want to talk about that a bit as we're getting into the playoffs, is there's so many injuries, and for people who, even for me, I'm trying to keep up with all of them, right? Yeah. Do you have an injury report for us right now of, like, who is out and when they are expected to maybe be back and that kind of thing?
Sure. So we're missing Declan Carlisle, Max Crozier, Dominic James, Victor Hedman. Now we're missing Brandon Hagel, Anthony Cirelli, Pontus Holmberg. A lot of injuries.
How many was that?
That's 7 right there.
7?
But so Carlisle's working his way back. He's on the ice. Crozier's working his way back. He's on the ice as well. Dominic James on the ice. All of those guys still have a couple weeks left. I think the ones fans are most anxious about is Dominic James, myself included. Like, I want to see him back on the ice. The original timeline given for him was 8 to 10 weeks. And so that would put you, the 8th week is that first week of the playoffs. Okay. The week of April 20th or whatever it is. So he'd technically, if he comes back right at the start, he'd miss maybe game 1, game 2. He talked to media this week, and he said his goal was to be back at the start. So obviously he's aspiring to be back, but that's a player hoping, and so we don't know actual timeline, and the team hasn't given any update on him.
Well, I had this interesting note for the injuries when we were going to talk about that, and I just have this like gut feeling, sort of like how I felt about the Flyers maybe, I don't know, but that all the guys are just going to be back. Like,
I mean, they played through a lot.
I have this gut feeling that we're going to hit round 1, and all the guys you talked, not all the guys, I'll say most of the guys you just talked about right there, especially James, Hagel, Cirelli, Carlisle, like all those, some key guys that we've had this year when we made the 21-1-1 run. Yeah. Right? Like, all those guys are going to be back because, as you're going to show here in a second, I'm pretty sure the injuries from last playoffs where the guys play with ridiculous injuries.
Yeah, to your point. Let's pull that up. So this is from last year's playoffs. So we were eliminated first round. We don't want to talk about it. But here's the list that Julian Breesbaugh gave in the exit interviews. Obviously, Bjorkstrand had compartment syndrome. But, like, there's guys. Victor Hedman was playing. He played in these games with a broken foot. Yeah. Like, Yanni Gourde had a broken finger. Luke Glendening, obviously, he had that shoulder separation. Nikita Kucherov had the hand injury that he's dealing with most of the year. Nick Paul, left wrist tear. Like, there's all these injuries that people play with through the playoffs. And so, to your point, I do think we will see Hagel, Cirelli. Like, I think Hedman's going to come back. Hopefully, James is back. I think these guys will come back.
Yeah. What is your... out of all these things, right? You said you're fighting through adversity. We're trying to figure out how to win when we're down, when we're losing. And I think we figured out a way to do that in our best moments. What do you feel like is the key to playoff victory this time? Because when you come to the playoffs, you reset. Every team gets crazy. Yeah, it's
completely different.
Right? It's totally different. So what's the key for us in not only resetting ourselves, but also resetting the fan base to have expectation, because we always feel like we can win the whole thing. And so you included, right? I think me included. But what should we expect? What are the keys?
I mean, I think the key is just playing the recipe that we've shown all throughout the season.
Yeah, cook it up for me.
It's playing on our toes, right? That's what I genuinely believe the forecheck is the key to our victory. And if we're forechecking, we're going to win. Because I think that Hounds line, hopefully Pontus Holmberg's back. If not, Bjorkstrand can slot in. But that identity they've established of just forechecking, I think it wears down the other team's top stars.
It almost feels like a mentality, like Hounds mentality. It can't just be the Hounds line.
It's an identity.
Yeah.
It has got to be everyone. Like you said, it's not just the Hounds. But if we can get that kind of focus from Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point, like, I don't think there's a team in the NHL that's going to beat us.
Yeah.
And I just don't. It's just about, can we do it? Like, are we going to be focused enough? Are we going to be dialed in enough that every shift, every play, we're playing on our toes?
I mean, during our huge winning streak, when was that? That was like January,
I don't have the exact
January
dates.
into February, something like that.
It was
right?
leading up to the Olympic break.
The
in
new
February.
year. The new year. When we were winning almost every game, there was this sense of unstoppability that was happening. And it didn't
we were
feel,
invincible.
But it didn't feel like in the past when we, score a ton of goals. It didn't feel like in the past when we ended up with 120, 140, whatever points at the end of the year, something ridiculous. It felt like the other team couldn't breathe.
Right.
And
we gave them no time and space.
And I think that for me, if I'm thinking about keys, is the key. Similar to you, right? The forecheck, yes, but whatever we can do to make it feel like they can't breathe. Because I think Vasilevsky can do that anytime. He can just stop every shot, and he feels like a wall, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you're not able to score goals like that, and you can get teams into the mentality of, we can't score, there's nothing we can do about this, and we're getting forechecks, so we can't even get the puck, I think you can make people feel like we can't breathe, and then it's almost like, not that we're going to win every game, but that we can't lose.
Right.
So
we're going to be back next week. Thanks for listening. This is a podcast. It's a way to engage with Bolts Nation and to help people enjoy the Bolts. So write into us. Give us your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think we're going to win it all, or do you think we're another first-round exit? I mean, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear how you think the playoffs will shape up. But write into us, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Go Bolts.